If we could talk to the animals, learn all their languages, maybe take an animal degree. If I conferred with our furry friends, man to animal, think of the amazing repartee. If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals, and they could talk to me.
Hello and welcome to Pet Watch, a program about the services and events that are happening at your Williamson County Animal Control and Adoption Center. I'm Debbie Sims and I'll be your host for today's show, and my guest will be Mark Basenberg. Good morning, Mark.
Hey, Debbie.
Mark works at our shelter. He is the Community Relations Coordinator for Williamson County Animal Control, and we thought it might be a good idea today to look back on some of the accomplishments we've had during 2013. And Mark's role is that over our volunteers, assisting with management of the shelter, and anything else we need done, right, Mark?
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
It's a small staff, and we all pitch in.
Right. You joined us, celebrated a year with us in last June.
Right.
And I remember when we first talked on this show, some of your goals were. So tell us how this last full year has gone for you, 2013, and what some of the accomplishments you feel like the shelter has made.
You know, I think we've done an awful. I don't really remember specifically what I told you my goals were, but I do feel like the shelter has made a lot of improvements this year. We had a new director, of course. Laura Chavarria joined us in June. Deborah Birch, our new staff veterinarian, joined us in August. The volunteer program has continued to grow. You know, we reached a peak in the summertime when the kids are out of school and things like that of about, in a given month, 165 or so volunteers, and they contributed about 1,200 hours
Wow.
in each month, like of June, July, August. Now we're backed off of that a little bit since school started back, and we're averaging about 110 volunteers and about 900 hours now. So, you know, but we just did an orientation class this week and brought in, 40 people attended the class. So,
Wow.
Well,
I think that was one of your goals, was to increase the number of volunteer training sessions or orientation sessions, and that has happened. I think you're up to about 2 a month on some months, aren't you? Right,
we do 2 a month. It's just whenever demand warrants. I mean, if there's a lot of people that sign up, I mean, like this week we did them on the same day, but we actually did 2 sessions because we have small meeting rooms there. We can't accommodate large crowds, so we doubled it up. And in the summertime we do, at least 2 classes. And and that contrasts to, a couple of years ago, I think the shelter did 1 orientation per quarter.
Wow.
So we do everything we can to encourage volunteer participation in the communities, and not just things like walking dogs, but also we've created a lot more opportunities with socializing the cats. And really the next thing we want to really improve in our volunteer program is to make people be more like adoption counselors. Learn more about the animals, learn more about the personality testing that you've talked about before, and be able to relate that to the potential adopters, dogs and cats. And we call it caninality for dogs and felinality for cats. And it's a powerful program. It's designed by the ASPCA, and we really believe in it. We're really committed to it, but we've got to do a better job in the coming year of implementing it on the front end, the customer-facing part.
Right, and that's always the challenge, because the shelter is a way station between no home and a final permanent home for every animal. So it's not intended for them to stay there very long, and it is handy to do a quick evaluation. I think the caninality takes less than an hour for them to classify an animal, and it is important. It's hard to keep up with, so the more volunteers we have that can do these things, the more efficiently the shelter works.
Absolutely, and the more adoptable the animals become, it just improves their chances. And that's one other thing I would like to mention as far as an improvement at the shelter. The length of time of the animals in the shelter has dropped dramatically this year over last year. I don't know what the average is for each animal, but like in the dogs in particular. Last couple of years, at any given time, we had probably 6 or 8 dogs that had been with us between 6 months and even a year. And now, we did have one who was with us 6 months. He was just adopted a couple of weeks ago. And it's really kind of unusual now for a dog to go beyond, say, 3 months or so. Then we begin to consider them long-term guests now when they're, kind of at about
Right.
the 3-month level, and that's that's like half what it used to be. So very proud of that.
That's good. And also we've been concentrating on those certain animals that have been there the longest and evaluating why are they still there, what do we need to do to get them adopted,
Right.
And introducing them to the public at remote adoption events.
Right.
One of the things that you wanted to do was have more events, and frankly, I counted 46 when I went back to the calendar.
Yeah.
So I think we had 6 Saturdays in the year that we weren't out at a remote location conducting an event.
Yeah.
And those are so valuable. We went to new places. We went to Spring Hill for the first time. We went to Thompson Station for the first time.
Right.
We went to downtown Franklin and had a very...
A few times.
Yeah, a few times.
Right.
The 5 Points location has proven to be a popular one.
Right.
It's interesting how people end up adopting animals. Some of them come to the shelter with the intent of adopting,
Right.
and others just walk by an event and are caught by a cat or dog, and
Right.
and they catch their eye, and then they start thinking, and then they end up adopting, and that is a wonderful thing. I've seen that happen.
It is. And we don't really see that the return rate of those kind of adoptions is really any higher than the people who come to the shelter and then return a dog
Right.
for whatever reason. And not that we have a lot of returns. I mean, I believe our return rate in 2012 was about 7%, which is actually below the national average, and it's probably similar this year. But you notice them, you notice the returns more than you do, because you hate to see them come back. But that's okay.
You do. But our goal is for every animal to end up in a permanent home.
Right.
And sometimes there's a brief stay at somebody's home, but they come back and then they go to a permanent home. So
Right.
it's just a matter of working it out.
It is. I mean, we had I can think of 2 times in the last couple of weeks where somebody returned a dog. It just wasn't working out at their home for whatever reason. And within a matter of hours, not days, hours, it was readopted.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
You talked about the expanding role of our volunteers, and one of the highlights to me of 2013 was the implementation of the Furry Friends program down at Judge Sharon Guffey's courtroom.
Yeah.
We had a volunteer with a well-trained Great Pyrenees, and working with Judge Guffey, that dog went down there with that volunteer and comforted the children whose cases were before the court. And I
Right.
believe have you been down there with animals now?
I have. I've been down several times, and I've started going recently, and I'm in the process of recruiting some new volunteers to start doing that, because Judge Guffey really wants to continue that service, and it's obviously just wonderful for the kids. And what I like about it from the shelter is these aren't specially trained dogs. We just pick out a
Right.
dog that seems to be, laid back. We don't want to take a yapper in, but we want
Right.
to take a dog in that's, that just laid back, and we think will be good with children. And I think every one we've tried has just been
It's been wonderful.
It's been great.
Well, you just have an instinct for that, I think. And I saw the pictures where I think you took a black lab mix down there.
Yes,
and
Rue.
he just laid on his back, and the kids just
Yeah.
loved it. And
Yeah.
Judge Guffey is continuing that program, and it's something that maybe people in our community aren't aware that
Right.
that the shelter
Right.
does. And
Right, and we did take a cat one time. You kind of run into a couple of problems with cats. A lot more people are allergic to cats, and so you have to kind of take that in consideration. Plus, cats don't travel nearly as well as dogs do. It stresses them out.
Right. They get a little
it's more
stressed.
dog focused.
Right. We also talked about increasing local business and corporate participation in shelter activities, and I've seen many corporations and businesses step up this year and doing special projects at the shelter. We
Absolutely.
had a little garden pagoda built, and that was through our friends at Mars
It was.
Pet Care.
Right.
And we had other local businesses come in and move gravel,
We
move
did.
a fence.
Some back-breaking labor. Some school groups did those kind of things.
Right.
Built a big covered shed that we're going to put over some emergency kennels that we're
Right.
building out back. And gosh, a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see the community do that, and I think we'll see more businesses stepping up. I know we've had volunteers branch out and help you with graphics, designing posters. We have a photographer who now volunteers his time taking beautiful photographs of our dogs. We have some brave volunteers who offer to bathe and sort of groom our animals, which they need.
They do.
We have dogs that come in and they're dirty and they've been out on the loose, and sometimes they end up with a complete makeover.
They do. That's right. We shave them, shampoo them, and we've seen some remarkable transformations, haven't we?
I know it. We really have. We'd like to encourage local businesses to have events where they might raise money for us, not necessarily an adoption event. We have restaurants that contact us from time to time and say, on a certain night, we would like to give you a portion of our profits.
Very true.
We did a Chili's Give Back Day where all the Chili's locations in the county gave money to the shelter from that evening. We've worked with other smaller businesses. We actually went in downtown Franklin into the anthropology store.
Right.
We went to the Body Shop in Green Hills Mall. So we're branching out, and it's not always an adoption event. If you have a business that's not conducive to bringing animals, that's fine.
It is. Right.
We can work out a way that either bringing pet supplies.
Old towels. We always need more old towels. It's just unbelievable how we go through.
We'll let our viewers know
towels.
Old clean towels, they can have stains or bleach stains on them.
Yeah.
As long as they're clean, we need them at the shelter.
We do.
Because they have a very short life. They're important for day-to-day use, but can't be cleaned that many times, and they have to be disposed of to cut down on disease. So we always need old towels.
We do.
Even if they're ripped on the end, it doesn't matter, or frayed.
Right.
Other things that we need at the shelter that you can think of right now that our viewers might be able to offer?
We get asked a lot about toys and treats, and unfortunately we have to discourage both of those in most cases. I mean, when it comes to toys for the dogs, we can always use the larger, rugged, like the Kong type toys for dogs, but the small stuff like tennis balls can clog the drains and the drain system in the kennel area. We'd rather not. There are a lot of dangers inherent in the rawhide shoes and things like that, and frankly, we get a lot of stomach issues which relate to cleaning problems if they get too many treats. If the dogs get too many treats.
Right.
And the problem with cats is we have to have things that are easily sanitized, because ping pong balls are good. I mean, we can use ping pong balls as toys for the cats, but
because you can wash them off.
Yeah, we can sterilize them in the liquid that will sanitize them and kill all the germs. But keeping cats healthy in the shelter is job one, and it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And so therefore, the soft toys where germs can collect and the viruses and all this just unfortunately.
Well, one of the ways that our
us.
Viewers could go is go on Amazon.com and look at our wish list.
Yes.
Look up the shelter, and on there we have actual items that they could purchase.
We do.
That we want. So we've sat down and picked those things out. And I would encourage people to do that, and so they'll know that they're purchasing something that the shelter really needs. And I know right now we have a need for the wire kennels.
We do.
The medium and large.
Right, like the 36-inch size crates and the 48s, I guess.
Okay, that's a great gift. If somebody wants to give the shelter a gift, that would be wonderful.
This would be.
Kennels do have a life, and we do a lot of remote events, and we transport in kennels.
Oh, yeah. And we use them for fosters. When fosters take an animal, we want to send them home with a crate so that they can crate the animal when it's at home.
Right. Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment to talk about some of the statistics for the past year and some of the plans for 2014.
Hi, my name is Tanir. I chose this book because the pictures are really good. This is one of my favorite pictures, and you can learn some facts about them too. This is one of my favorite facts. It tells a lot about history, and it tells you like it tells you different types of countries and like cities. And like German's like friend, he really likes the sport, and he wanted German Stelson to come with him and do the race across America with him. And German Stelson wins the race.
Hi, and welcome back to Pet Watch. We're reflecting on 2013 and accomplishments at the shelter, and Mark Basenberg, who functions as our community relations coordinator and shelter assistant manager in many cases, is with me today, and we've been talking about some of our accomplishments. We set goals for the year, and of course, as a shelter, one of our goals is always to reduce the euthanasia rate of the shelter itself. Now, how has that manifested itself in 2013? Tell us about that.
I'm proud to say, just cutting to the bottom line, it's the best year in the shelter's history. So we're just extraordinarily proud of that. I mean, what we're there for at the shelter is to rehome adoptable pets. I mean, that's what we're all there for.
Right.
So the euthanasia rate is just it's one quantifiable measure of how well we're doing, and we're happy to say, I mean, it's the lowest in the shelter's history. And really, if you look back, I've got statistics that go back 5 and even back to 10 years, and the improvement has been gradual, steady, and actually lately it's been pretty dramatic, and we're just feeling great about it.
And one of the things you were telling me earlier that we could attribute that to is the overall health of the animals at the shelter, and some of the protocols that have been instituted there have helped avoid an outbreak, especially in cat population, of upper respiratory, which sometimes can go like wildfire through all the cats, and it is a catastrophic event if it happens, and we have not had that happen this year, so that has been a wonderful thing. Now, I know we've controlled the handling of the kittens in and out of the kennels, and that's helped because then if one kitten happened to be sick, it wouldn't be transmitted over.
Right.
And tell Dr. Birch how she's contributed to the health of the animals.
She just seems to be she's an aggressive treater of issues, and when a cat does develop something, she seems to treat it aggressively and do her absolute best to save it, rather than make a decision we should just euthanize this animal to remove it from the exposure possibility to the the remainder of the pets. I just feel like she seems, in my opinion, to treat a little more aggressively, and she's been very successful. And as you mentioned, we have done some measures that not everybody thought was a good idea at first, but I mean, which is putting locks on the cages of the cats so that people, when they come in, especially the kittens, they used to get just overhandled. And once you pick up a kitten and you hold it up against your chest, and then you put it back in its cage, and then you pick up another, well, once those viruses get into your clothing, then they're going to get passed from kitten to kitten to kitten. And we used to have a number of outbreaks in previous years where every cat or kitten in the room would be sick.
Right.
And it's an ongoing battle, and we can't pat ourselves on the back too hard and say, "Aren't we great?" Because we're still.
It could happen.
An outbreak could happen
vulnerable.
again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And dogs and cats. So, in the shelter, it's just a fact of life that there's going to be, animals that are brought in that are already infected with something that we have no way of knowing, even though we do everything we can on the front end.
Right.
As soon as they're brought into the building, they get all the vaccinations and stuff, but there's an incubation period of diseases, and occasionally, something happens.
And many of them are kept in a different area than adoption, just to see how their wellness factor, but things do slip through. But we're doing everything we can, is basically, and I think it's great that Dr. Birch is aggressive about that, and she's also aggressive about advising the staff and changing protocols. When everybody needs to wear gloves when they're doing this, changing gloves, cleaning compounds and things like that to have cut down drastically on that. We also participate in the PetSmart Charities Rescue Wagon program. We've mentioned it before, but in case a viewer wasn't watching, there are actually areas in the United States where there's a shortage of adoptable dogs. It's hard to believe, but in communities where they have a higher, have more stringent spay and neuter laws, there aren't a lot of animals at their local shelters. So PetSmart Charities started this rescue wagon. And tell us how that works as a participating shelter.
You know, it starts with being, we're considered a source shelter. And the shelters where the animals go are called destination shelters. And this is a dog program. And, you know, here, it's a little bit embarrassing to say that all the source shelters they're all in the South. And the reason for that is, of course, that we tend to treat our dogs a little differently than other parts of the country, and we don't have nearly the amount of laws in effect and restrictions and so forth, licensing requirements, all that other states do have. So we tend to have, because people don't spay and neuter as they should in the South, we tend to have an overpopulation of pets, and Rescue Wagon was put together by PetSmart Charities to address that problem and enable us to save more lives by sending them into states or areas where the demand is higher. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, there's some videos that we've posted on our site, professionally done videos from PetSmart Charities, where, you know, people are actually lined up and waiting for the transport truck to arrive.
Wow.
And they adopt the animals, you know, straight off
It's
the
great
truck.
to see the end result, because I've seen
It
them
is.
load, and we basically review our animal, our adoptable dogs, take video of them. PetSmart looks at them and chooses the ones that would serve their purposes best: large, small,
Right.
breed related, whatever their criteria is, healthy. And then their transport truck pulls up, and they have a staff that just goes around the country picking up the animals and driving them to the locations where they'll be adopted.
Right.
And they have a very successful adoption rate.
100% is pretty good.
100%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how many animals did we relocate through that program?
So far through the end of October, which is as of today, that's the latest numbers I have. We've sent 133 dogs out of here
Wow.
to other shelters under
Wow.
that program, just under that program. In addition to that, we've done another, I believe it's, forgotten the number, but something like, another 100 or maybe more that have gone to other shelters through other rescue programs. They've gone to, some have gone to local rescue groups. We send a lot of dogs to New England. You know, shortage of animals up there, and so we send a lot of dogs up there on transports. And you know, we typically get photographs back and emails back, and oh, Barney's doing so great in my home, and thank you for sending him, and you know.
Yeah,
all
those
that.
are great.
Oh, they're wonderful. Yeah.
How many animals have been adopted out thus far in 2013?
If you consider, and because we consider sending them to the rescue groups
Sure.
like that, an adoption.
Sure.
So far through the end of October, again, about 750 dogs and 800 cats.
Wow.
And the rescues are particularly important in the dogs because of the 750, 330 have been rescues. 330, so almost half.
You mean rescue groups?
They've gone to rescue groups,
Okay.
yeah.
And there are a number of those in the community. Some are breed specific, some are not.
And we work closely with a lot of the, like when we get a Great Pyrenees, we pick up the phone and typically call somebody like Big Fluffy Dogs. They're they're an excellent rescue group. They're somewhat national or multi-regional at least, and but they do have people here.
And that's a good feeling when you're in there and it says, oh, Big Fluffy Dog's come in this afternoon to pick up so-and-so.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling because you
is.
know that it takes a village sometimes to get a dog adopted.
It sure does.
And knowing that they have different groups and different resources than we do and connections in Tennessee and other states,
Right.
that dog's going to be adopted
Right.
or else they wouldn't take it on. So we're so happy to have all those rescue groups around, and it's amazing when you go to like the Dog Expo, how many rescue groups there are. But you can find one for most every popular breed.
We do vet the rescue groups that we work with very carefully. They all need to be 501c3s and have gone through some. They need to. We don't work with it's easy to set up a shop in your garage and claim to be a rescue. We only work with kind of the upper tier
right.
rescue group.
And we know these people
We do.
personally, so it's not like we're sending them someplace and we don't know where they're going to end up.
Right.
So that's wonderful to know. You mentioned we got a new director this past year. We've got a new veterinarian in the shelter. Our 501(c) group, Williamson Animal Services, came in and installed some new lighting.
Yeah.
Skylights, they're calling it sun tunnels.
Sun tunnels.
And they provide a whole lot of natural light into some areas of the shelter that were kind of dark.
Right.
And they're energy saving as well. In fact, you can turn the electric lights off, and in a sunny day, you can just use those skylights for light.
Yeah, they make a big difference. We feel like they've just brightened up the place a lot.
Yeah, we have had a lot of promotions this year and drawing attention to the shelter. One of the things our new director has done is try to come up with a catchy promotion each month, and it does capture the public's ear, I think, to hear. We had Have a Heart in February. We've had a couple of Black Friday events. We had the Summer of Love, the $31 Days of October. All of these things draw the public's attention to the shelter because it's nonstop. It's 365. It's never empty at the shelter, and that's one thing people say, well, how crowded are you? Well, my answer is every time an animal gets adopted, another one gets dropped off at the door. So it's a constant, ongoing effort, is it not?
You're absolutely right. It's we can't control the back door. I mean, we're an open admission shelter,
Right.
and government agency. That means any Williamson County resident that comes to our intake door and says, I want to surrender this dog or this cat, we cannot, by law, turn anything away, and we don't. So.
Yeah. Well, the promotions have proved so successful that,
They have.
and I think that is one of the ways to draw attention to the ongoing need for adoptions. It's not a sale in the sense that things
It's
are
not.
marked down, but it's a public awareness campaign.
It's an appeal for help, I think, into a caring community, and
Right.
we try hard to be judicious in the use of promotions
Right.
because and we also try to maintain a very positive marketing image. We don't allow video of people coming in and filming video of animals behind chain link fence with sad music playing.
Right.
That's
Right.
not our thing. We try to focus them and keep everything positive and
Well, isn't that what pets are? Pets are a positive force in anyone's life. A cat person, a dog person, a person that loves both, it's just a positive addition to any family.
It is.
Well, thank you for bringing us up to date on your accomplishments, and I congratulate you on the things that you did last year
Thank you very
in
much.
2013, and will continue to do in 2014. I'd like to mention to our viewers that if you're doing some online shopping this year, that if you'll go to a site called adoptashelter.com, you will find there that our shelter is registered and can benefit from your shopping. There's no additional fee to you. Just go on adoptashelter.com, then choose our shelter, and then start your shopping. There are about 400 retailers there, and the retailers themselves give us a donation for your purchase. It's not coming from you, it's coming from the retailer. So if you could choose us as your beneficiary, that's a little bit more money in the pot to help our cats and dogs. If you'd like to become a volunteer, go to adoptwcac.org, and at the top, click on Volunteer Online, sign your name there, and then Mark will send you an email when the next volunteer orientation class is coming up. If you have a community event coming up in 2014 that you think you'd like to have our mobile adoption center come out to, or you have a business and you'd like to throw a little benefit for the shelter, you can also contact Mark about that. The number at the shelter is 790-5590, and we'd encourage you to come by. Some of our most successful events have been at the shelter itself, and I think that's because everyone can see every cat and dog in one place at one time. So come by and see us. We've made a lot of improvements at the shelter. We'd love to have you come by and take a little tour. If you want more information and keep up with our day-to-day events, you can go on Facebook and friend Williamson County Animal Shelter. Thank you for watching Pet Watch, and we hope to see you again next month.
If I could talk to the animals, just imagine it, chatting with a chimp and chimpanzee. imagine talking to a tiger, chatting with a cheetah. What a neat achievement it would be if we could talk to the animals, learn all their languages, maybe take an animal degree. I'd study elephant and eagle, buffalo and beagle, alligator, guinea pig, and flea.